I don't remember how it all started, or rather, I do remember. It was a stupid ad that popped up at night while I was scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself from the emptiness in my head. Want revenge? 49, 95 plus tax, guaranteed results. I laughed, nervously, loudly, so loudly that my roommate turned over and pulled the pillow over her ears. The ad looked like it belonged to a teenager in a garage, a smudged photo of a crooked cake with a knife stuck in the middle and the words, as if scrawled in red marker, "Start your 7-day plan now." Absurd. And that's exactly why I clicked. The website looked even stranger. Simple design, black background, typos. Escalation of consequences, finality of the contract, result is binding. The terms were written in a way that made it seem like almost no one would read them. I didn't either. Only one phrase caught my attention. The recipient must be a personal sign of the sender. This includes in-person communication, direct online interaction, or written text read by the sender. I grimaced. Some kind of legal ploy, or just a bunch of words? But curiosity was already brewing inside. When I reached the enter name line, my fingers froze. Megan immediately appeared before my eyes. She was always there, my best friend from school. Although, honestly, did friends ever act like that? She had a way of making me feel smaller. She joked, but the jokes were always on my plate. She only called me when she was bored, and sometimes she'd forget altogether, then explain with a lazy smile, "Well, I thought you wouldn't like it," and I always accepted, always kept quiet. And now her name was pulsing in my head. I knew that if I found out, I wouldn't back down. It would be like a blow. The way things happen, I want something to happen to her. My fingers were shaking. I selected Megan, and I pressed send. Nothing, no emails, no window, just a blank screen. I snorted, turned off my phone, and fell asleep. The next day, Megan fell down the stairs. It was like a campus-wide scandal in front of everyone. Her shriek cut through my ears, and I involuntarily ran closer. She was lying on the cold steps, holding my hand. Later, the doctors said, "A broken wrist, ankle sprains." I froze. My insides went cold. After all, she herself later turned to her friends. "I swear someone pushed me, but I turned around, nobody." I laughed along with the infected, but fear pounded in my chest. That evening, I sat in my room, my thoughts whirling, one more terrifying than the other. It's a coincidence. It has to be a coincidence. The stairs are slippery. Megan is always rushing somewhere, and she's glued to her phone. But an ad flashed into my mind. The midday plan. And I couldn't shake the feeling that this was the first day. On the second day, her car skidded off the road. She said, "The brakes failed." The mechanic shrugged. Everything was fine, no problem. She was crying, sitting on the hood, and I stood next to her, and it felt like my fingers were tingling from the cold. But it wasn't the cold, it was fear. Did I do it? Or do I just believe I did it? I barely slept that night. I stared at the ceiling and wondered, if this isn't a coincidence, what will happen tomorrow? On the third day, Megan came home with a pair of long sleeves. I noticed the first thing, and when she, forgetting herself, rolled up the fabric, my breath caught. On her hands were long, jagged scratches, like claws, as if someone had tormented her in her sleep. She noticed my gaze. Her lips trembled, and suddenly a quiet whisper, almost inaudible. "I don't know what's happening, I'm scared. Every night something touches me. I wake up in tears." I nodded, but my insides were clenching. I wanted to tell her the truth. I wanted to confess, But how? Say, I ordered your misfortune for $49.95? She would have laughed, or worse, believed me, and then I'm not just guilty, I'm a monster. That evening, I went to that website again, but it no longer existed. The page didn't open, just a white screen. I sat in front of my laptop, shaking. I wanted to turn back time, turn the lid back to the button, but it was too late. By the fourth day, I knew it wasn't coincidence anymore. I was walking back from class when I heard the whispers, a small crowd gathering outside Megan's dorm room. Curiosity gnawed at me. My steps felt heavy, but I forced myself closer. The door was wide open. Inside, the walls were no longer white. Words covered them, jagged and wild, scrawled in black and red: liar, thief, traitor. They looped across every surface, overlapping, angry. And the thing that made my stomach drop, the paint dripped downwards, but the floor beneath was spotless. No cans, no brushes. Megan's roommate swore Megan hadn't left her bed all night, that the door had been locked from the inside. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. The smell of paint clung to the air, acrid and suffocating. I looked at Megan. She was pale, trembling, clutching her broken wrist as though it could shield her from the words surrounding her. When our eyes met, I almost confessed, almost screamed, "This is my fault. I signed you up for this. I started it." But nothing came out, just silence. And in that silence, I realized the truth. The walls weren't speaking to her. They were speaking to me. The next day, I almost didn't go to class. My stomach churned with dread, but some part of me, morbid, addicted, dragged me there anyway. Megan sat 2 rows ahead. Her hair was messy, her hands shaking. She coughed once, twice, then louder. The cough turned to gagging, to choking, and then she vomited. At first I thought it was blood, but when I saw what hit the floor, bile burned the back of my throat. Teeth, dozens of them, yellowed, cracked, broken, not hers. Her own teeth were still in her mouth. These were from strangers, dozens of strangers. The entire class screamed. Chairs scraped against the floor. People bolted for the door. Megan clutched her stomach, eyes wide in horror, as the pile of teeth rattled across the linoleum. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I felt the guilt curl around me like smoke. This was my doing. This was what I'd bought. And yet a darker thought whispered, "You paid only $49.95, and look at what you've unleashed." By the 6th day, Megan was gone. Not dead, just gone in the way a person disappears while still breathing. I found her in the common room. She was rocking back and forth, knees pulled to her chest, eyes darting everywhere. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. Her hair. It wasn't the same. Streaks of white threaded through it, as if years had passed overnight, and the smell rot, decay, like something buried too long. When I knelt down, she didn't recognize me. Or maybe she did, and that was worse. Her eyes widened, full of a terror so raw it burned me. She scrambled backward, pressing herself into the corner like a trapped animal. I whispered, "I'm sorry." But sorry meant nothing. Sorry was ash in my mouth. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in front of my laptop, shaking. I checked my bank account again, hoping, praying it had been a joke. The transaction was still there, still pending, but now, beneath it, a note. "Payment in progress. Please nominate the next recipient." A web page opened automatically, bold letters across the screen. "You must nominate someone. The cycle continues. If no name is submitted, it will revert to the original sender." I touched my stomach. The skin burned. I lifted my shirt. There, carved in shallow, angry letters across my skin, were 2 words: tick-tock. The message on my laptop pulsed like a heartbeat. You must nominate someone. My throat tightened. My mind spun. I wanted to close it, to throw the laptop across the room, but the letters stayed burned into my vision. Nominate someone, or it comes back to me. My hand traced the fresh cuts across my stomach. They stung with every breath, every movement. They weren't healing. They were deepening, reddening, as though an unseen blade was still there, carving. For the first time, I felt real fear, not for Megan, but for myself. I tried to reason with it. Maybe it's fake. Maybe it's some elaborate prank site. Maybe Megan's. Incidents were coincidences. But then I remembered the teeth, the words on her walls, the way her hair had turned white in patches overnight. Coincidence couldn't explain that. The thought of choosing another name turned my stomach. Who could I possibly damn to the same nightmare? Yet the alternative. I stared at the screen for hours. Sweat beaded my forehead. My hands shook. And then I thought of Olivia. She'd laughed with Megan, always at my expense. She'd whispered in her ear, fueled her cruelty, joined in on every joke. Her name burned in my brain like a neon sign. I didn't want to type it, but I also didn't want to die. My fingers moved on their own, slowly, reluctantly. Each keystroke felt like a nail in a coffin. Olivia. I hit enter. The screen went blank, and in that blankness I knew I had just traded my life for hers. The next day, Olivia was fine, perfectly fine, laughing with friends, tossing her hair, mocking some poor freshmen who dropped their books in the hall. For a moment, I wondered if the site had failed. Maybe it only worked once. Maybe Megan had been the only sacrifice. But then Olivia stopped mid-laugh. She winced, clutching her hand. I watched as blood welled up from thin air-deep scratches appeared on her palm, as if invisible claws had raked across it. She yelped, stumbling back, her friends gasping. I couldn't look away. My heart hammered, half in horror, half in sick fascination. It had started. That night, I lay awake, staring at my ceiling. Every creak of the dorm building sounded like whispers. Every shadow crawled across the wall like hands reaching for me. I knew Olivia's suffering was only the beginning, and I knew I was the one who had chosen it. By the 3rd day, Olivia's laughter was gone. She sat in class, pale and twitchy, her eyes darting to corners no one else could see. I recognized the look. It was the same one Megan had worn before she broke completely. A guilt deeper than anything I'd ever known gnawed at me. I wanted to tell someone, to confess, to scream, I paid for this, I started it, it's my fault. But who would believe me? Imagine walking into the dean's office and saying, yes, hello, I spent $49.95 on a revenge website, and now my classmates are being tortured by unseen forces. I'd be locked away, so I stayed silent. I wore my mask. I laughed when people made nervous jokes about Olivia's bad luck. I nodded when someone whispered that maybe she was cursed, but inside I was unraveling. Every time I looked at her, I saw my own reflection, because soon enough, if I didn't keep feeding the cycle, it would be me in her place. That night, the nightmares began. I was in Megan's dorm room, standing in front of the graffiti-covered walls. The words shifted and changed before my eyes. Liar, thief, traitor. Then new ones appeared. Murderer, coward, nominator. The paint dripped like blood, pooling around my feet. I tried to move, but I was stuck. My shoes sank deeper with every second. A shadow rose in front of me, tall and faceless, its hands stretched wide, long and skeletal. In one palm was Megan, screaming, her skin blistering as boiling water poured over her. In the other was Olivia, choking on a flood of teeth, clawing at her throat. The shadow leaned down, and though it had no mouth, I heard it whisper, "You started this. You feed me now." I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. My hands clutched at my stomach, half expecting to find new words carved into my skin. Instead, I found something worse. Under my fingernails was paint, black, red, wet. And when I turned to look at my dorm wall, I froze. Fresh words were smeared there, jagged and uneven. Who's next? By day 4, Olivia stopped speaking. She sat in the back of class, her notebook open but blank. Her pen hovered above the page, trembling in her grip. Her lips moved silently, as if forming words she could no longer give voice to. I watched her, unable to look away. The guilt coiled tighter around my ribs, squeezing with every shallow breath. She hadn't mocked me in days, hadn't laughed, hadn't even looked my way. She was unraveling, and I was the one pulling the thread. At lunch, I overheard her roommate whispering, "She doesn't sleep anymore, keeps the lights on, says she sees something crawling on the ceiling." I closed my eyes. Images flooded me. Megan's scratches, her hair turning white, her hollow stare. And now Olivia. The cycle was repeating exactly as before. But this time, I couldn't pretend it was coincidence. I had chosen her. That night, I opened my laptop again, my fingers trembling over the keys. I wanted to check the site to see if there was some way to cancel, to undo it. But when the page loaded, all it said was, "Cycle in progress, day 4 of 7. Beneath it, in smaller letters, "Prepare your next nomination." The bathroom mirror had always been a quiet place for me. I'd stand there brushing my teeth, adjusting my hair, staring into my reflection to remind myself I was real, solid. But on the 5th day, when I leaned in to wash my face, I froze. The reflection wasn't mine. It looked like me, same hair, same eyes, but the smile was wrong, crooked, mocking. I stumbled back, but the reflection stayed close, pressing against the glass as though it could push through. Its lips moved, soundless at first. Then I heard it. A whisper in my own voice. "Who's next?" I screamed and threw the soap dispenser at the mirror. Glass cracked, shattering into spiderweb lines. My reflection laughed. I swear it laughed. When I ran back to my dorm, my phone buzzed with a new email. No subject, no sender, just an attachment, a photo of me standing in the bathroom, staring into the cracked mirror. Day 6. I walked into class and Olivia wasn't there. At first, relief washed over me. Maybe she'd gone home, maybe she'd found a way out. But then I heard the commotion. Down the hall, voices raised, people shouting. I pushed through the crowd until I saw her. Olivia was on the floor, clawing at her own arms, her nails leaving bloody streaks. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out except a hoarse wheeze. Tears streamed down her face and her eyes. Her eyes were wild, bloodshot, darting to shadows that no one else could see. "Get help!" someone shouted, but no one moved. They just stared, horrified. And me? I stood frozen, watching, knowing this was the price of my survival. That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the sound of scratching, waiting for the whisper to come back. It did. But this time, it wasn't from the ceiling. It was from under my bed. At first, it was soft, like a child's giggle. I pressed the pillow over my head, trying to drown it out, but it grew louder, sharper, until it became words. "Tick-tock, tick-tock, your turn is coming." My chest heaved, my skin crawled. I wanted to leap from the bed and run, but terror held me still. Slowly, I forced myself to look down. Two pale hands gripped the edge of my mattress, long fingers curling over the sheets. I bit down on a scream. The hands retreated. The voice faded. Silence returned. But I didn't sleep. Not that night. Maybe not ever again. By morning, my eyes burned, bloodshot from exhaustion. I dragged myself to class only to see the empty seat where Olivia used to sit. The news came at noon. She'd been found wandering barefoot in the snow, muttering nonsense, her skin blistered with frostbite. They'd taken her to the hospital. I should have felt relief. The cycle was nearly over, day 6. One more day, and she'd be gone. But instead, all I felt was dread, because soon I'd have to choose again. On the 7th day, I stayed in my dorm, curled up by the window, watching the snow fall. Every tick of the clock echoed in my skull. My phone buzzed every hour with new notifications, emails with no sender, each one containing pictures. Pictures of Olivia, her skin blistered and cracked, her hair falling out in clumps, her mouth stretched open in a silent scream. Each file was labeled Day 7. By evening, I knew she was gone, and then my laptop screen lit up on its own. Nominate the next recipient. 7 days will begin again. Failure to comply will revert the cycle to you. I stared at the blinking cursor in the empty box. I could feel the weight of it pressing down on me. I thought of Megan, of Olivia, of the way their lives had been shredded because of me. But the letters across my stomach still burned. The whispers still followed me. The shadow still waited. If I didn't choose someone else, it would be me. My hands hovered over the keys. Who's next? The box on the website waited. An empty field, a blinking cursor. I stared at it for hours, unable to move. The room around me felt colder, as if the screen itself was leaching the warmth from the air. My breath fogged in front of me. Every name that crossed my mind felt like a betrayal. Friends, classmates, strangers. I whispered them in my head, testing them, but the moment I imagined actually typing them, I froze. Didn't they deserve to live, didn't I? My reflection in the dark laptop screen shifted, its lips curling in that same wrong smile. I wasn't imagining it anymore, I couldn't be. And then the whisper came again, soft and insistent, but this time not from under the bed. It came from inside me. Choose or be chosen. I tried to resist. I really did. But the pressure built, like a weight pressing down on my chest. By the second night without sleep, I began seeing people I knew weren't there. Megan in the corner of my room, her broken wrist dangling at an impossible angle. Olivia pacing the hall outside, her eyes hollow, her skin peeling in ribbons. Everywhere I looked, they followed. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. Their silence was enough. By morning, I couldn't bear it anymore. I skipped class, locked the door, pushed a chair against it, even though I knew deep down that it wouldn't keep them out. I made coffee and sat at my desk. The cursor still blinked on the site. The box still waited. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe this wasn't about revenge anymore. Maybe it was about hunger. I started making lists. People who had hurt me, people who wouldn't be missed, people I could justify sacrificing if it meant my own survival. The act itself horrified me, but it also soothed me, like scratching at an itch. My pen scratched against the paper, names spilling out faster than I expected. Professors, childhood bullies, a neighbour who once screamed at me for leaving trash out too long. When I caught myself writing my own mother's name, I dropped the pen. My hand trembled violently. Tears blurred the page. What was happening to me? This wasn't survival anymore, it was corruption. But still, the box waited. On the third day after Olivia's end, my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something compelled me to. Static crackled on the line, then a voice low, distorted, like it was being dragged across broken glass. "You're late." I nearly dropped the phone. "Who is this?" I whispered. The voice chuckled, if you could call that wet, rasping sound a laugh. "You fed it twice. It wants more." My throat closed up. "What happens if I don't?" A pause, then gently, almost lovingly, "Then it eats you." The call ended. I stared at the phone, heart slamming, sweat dripping down my spine. I opened the laptop again. The box blinked, waiting. By day 4, I couldn't fight it anymore. The scratches returned, this time across my back, spelling words I couldn't quite read. My reflection no longer moved in sync with me. When I cried, it smiled. I knew what that meant. The curse was coming for me. I sat down at the laptop and typed a name. My fingers moved without thought, as if someone else guided them. When I saw the letters on the screen, my blood ran cold. It wasn't someone who had wronged me. It wasn't even someone I disliked. It was the name of the only person I still trusted. The only person who still cared whether I lived or died. My best friend now. The one who had stayed with me through Megan, through Olivia, through every sleepless night. The website flickered, as if satisfied. "Cycle will begin at midnight." I screamed and slammed the laptop shut, but the damage was done. The curse had chosen for me.